So much excitement in the air because it's a new month. It looks like everyone was just waiting for the month of September, and it's finally here. Good morning to you and happy new month to you. This is Atlantic Blowout, the first edition or episode of Atlantic Blowout in the month of September, and it's sure going to be an interesting one, so make sure you don't miss any part of the show. This is a syndicated live program of the network that features chit-chats and conversations and special interest topics on news, events and stories through correspondence, reports, expert opinion and stakeholders analysis. Today we'll take a look at a story from South. We have reports that Minister hails youths for peace commitment dialogue. And then on Cross River State, federal government probes alleged mistreatment of Calabar prison. And then we'll take a story from Taraba State. Government gives 524 million naira to 10,409 persons. On judiciary, Serap sues Akpabio and Abbas over 21 million naira allowances. On economy, Petroleum Minister urges quick HCDT implementation. And still talking about Nigeria's economy, we'll take a story that talks about WASU saying take action against saboteurs off Dangote refinery. Guests are talking to the federal government. We're going to a short break, and when we return, we'll let you know who our guest in the studio is. And after that, we'll delve straight into the matter for today. Please
Nigerian youths that works with the Ministry of Youth Development. So I really wonder why a plan for National Council of Youths, but probably there may be political reasons or a better reasons for that. But in any case, I would like to feel that if it's not going to clash with the interests of the National Council of Nigeria, I'm speaking because I'm a stakeholder and I've also been a state executive officer of the National Council of Nigeria, River State Chapter, one-time state auditor. So I think there's usually a collaboration between the government and the National Council of Nigeria. So I think the programs and the projections of the Honorable Minister for Youth seems to be very laudable. So I think we want to see it visible, not just on the talking, not just on paper. We want to see this Youth Development Bank come to reality. We want to see all the programs that she has talked about reviewing, funding of youth projects and businesses and programs. I think if we see them visible, the commendation will increase, I believe, from all Nigerians. So it's a good program.
Does the things like this, do they really bring the youths closer to the governments? Do they, at the end of the day, have the impact that it was intended in the beginning?
Most times it does. If the right platform is being followed, it does, because like I talked about the National Youth Council of Nigeria, where you have most times over 100 voluntary youth and non-voluntary youth organizations. I don't really think any viable youth organization is not affiliated or identifying with the National Youth Council of Nigeria. So it's like a clearing house. It's like a coordinating house for all the youths in Nigeria and across the states and local governments. So the National Council of Nigeria most times is like a training ground for leaders. So I think that using those platforms to drive these processes, I'm a beneficiary of those platforms, so I know the impact when government invests in the youth programs and projects. Usually it has a way of driving positive youth. Hardly you see a youth leader who has gone through the National Council of Nigeria becomes a very wide person. In their advocacies and activism, they are usually very positive and very, very result-oriented, so they are not on the violent side, so it's a good impact.
Yeah, but having this in the various states like you have mentioned, in Nigeria, that's all around Nigeria, which is actually supposed to bridge the gap between the youths and the government, right? But then at the end of the day, looking at Nigeria, would you say that the youths are actually closer to the government? Looking at, especially making reference to some of the agitations that the youths have, looking at the protests, would you say, or how would you say the relationship between the government and the youths are, even with these councils and these strategies that are already put in place to bridge the gap between these two entities?
Yes, the relationship between the government and the youth many times seems to be sabotaged by sometimes political elements too, who believe that a particular platform of the youth is not going to serve their political interests. So hence they try to balkanize youth organizations, try to create new ones to ensure that there is a crisis among the youths. But hence, if there is orderliness, if there is trust and belief in the platform that has been developed for youths in Nigeria, across the state and local government, there will tend to be more impact. And beside, again, too, we equally understand that, like I talked about the issue of people not trying to follow leadership, people not having trust and confidence in platforms that ought to be for their unification, for their development, and for positive impact upon their lives. So I think it's a call for politicians not to balkanize the youth platforms. It's also a call for youth to follow leadership. And again, when we talk about the closeness of government and the youth, I want to say that in so many states now, youths are even the one running government. For instance, in Rivers State, the governor is a young man, the chief of staff is a young man, many of the commissioners are young people, the assembly members, many are young.
Maybe you should define what is your definition of youth now, because when you say young man, and then it depends on how you see or what age you are placing when you talk about youths.
Well, my understanding about youth, if I give you my own definition of a youth, it may not be the one that United Nations gives.
What is exactly?
My own
What's
definition of
yes.
who is a youth is not classified by age.
Okay.
For me, a youth in Nigeria is that man or woman who has no money in her pockets to take care of her basic needs.
So youths are people who don't have money?
Oh, yes, for in Nigeria. Because if you have money in your pocket,
you're no longer a youth.
You are not longer a youth, because even all age will have respect for you. So
wow.
But yes, but if you want to look at even the age brackets, you have people within their early 40s who are now governors, who are now chief of staffs, who are now speakers of assembly, who are now commissioners, local government chairmen. So you can really understand that in most of these states, the young people, the youths, are the ones who are really driving government. So it's no longer a question of the relationship.
In some states.
In some states.
Yes,
it's no longer the issue of a relationship between the youths and those in government. So it's now the youth who are in government. What are they doing to impact upon the life of their fellow youths who are not privileged to be in government? So I like to say that those who are young people, those who are still in their youthful age, who are in government today, we want to see a difference between the elders and the young people who are in government. Because before we used to complain, oh, the elders do not carry the young people along. But today we have youths who are governors, who are speakers, who are assembly members, who are local government chairmen, they are commissioners, they are even ministers. Early last month, I was with the Honorable Minister for Youth of State. I'm sure he's within his early 40, So I want to believe that youths are part of government right now. But what we expect to see is how those positions of authority are impacting differently on the fellow youths who are not privileged to be in government.
Okay, so maybe we should get to look at that now, because there have been a clamor, like you made reference to, concerning the age that should be in a leadership in Nigeria. And we've had a lot of youths complain and say, when we were kids, they told us who'll be leaders of tomorrow, and this is our tomorrow, and we're still not the leaders. We're having leaders of yesterday still ruling Nigeria today in various parastatals. So if you are making reference to some youths already in leadership positions in Nigeria, which nobody is actually debating that with you, but let's get to look at the impact, how that has impacted the youths. Are you, from your explanation, are you saying it's the same thing that the youths are complaining about, that the leaders who are there now are actually carrying out, talking about the youths and the elderly ones?
You see, political position is not a position that is gotten by age. It's a position that is gotten based on constitutional provisions. The law and the constitution has made it clear. Electoral Act has made it clear for a particular age that you are qualified to vie for a particular position, and the criteria. For Nigeria, it's even very better, because education is not even seen to be a very good requirement, for political position. So I think that Nigerian youths are very lucky, because education is not seen as a major criteria, because even if you have a school sat F9, you are qualified to be a local government chairman. So it doesn't mean the kind of grade you graduated from, even from secondary school. So you are very much qualified. So I like to say,
are they doing better? Are they doing better? The youths in leadership, from your analysis, are you saying that they are doing exactly what the other youths are fighting against?
Well, if you talk about performances, it's a different thing. Like I said, that political positions, leadership position is not something that is gotten by age. Today, the candidates in the United States of America elections Most of them are 80-something. You know, starting from Donald Trump time, most of them are in their 70-something. So it's not about age. I think it's about maturity and what you have to offer. I know that for Rivers State, right from the time of His Excellency Rotimi Chibika Amechi, who became governor even at his early 40 or other 38, became speaker at the age of either 38 or thereabout, became governor in his early 40s. And then the former governor, His Excellency Nyesom Wike, came on board also in his early 40s. And now the current governor, His Excellency Similai Fubara, is also in his early, is also in his 40s. You know, so I think most of these states have been blessed with young leaders. And I want to put it on record that most of these leaders who have served, starting from His Excellency Chibike Rotimi Amechi, performed credibly well. His Excellency Nyesom Wike performed credibly well. So we are watching the next, the current governor, who is also a young man, his performances at the end of his tenure. So I want to think that young people in their different rights are trying their best. And we equally know that there are some who are not doing well. We must state that. And we want to encourage that those who are not doing well should also look at the example of those who have performed. Because if you do well, when next the young people are clamoring for position, elders can say, okay, let's give it to them. Even your fellow young people can say, let's support. But there are times where some of these leaders who are young are given position failed woefully. The only thing they achieve is to build hotels for themselves, build mansions for themselves, acquire almost the whole land within their local government, buy exotic cars, travel, you know, continually to different places, waste the resources of the people. So we know that there are people who have gone into leadership and they amounted to nothing as far as performance is concerned. So
you think the youths are out of place to clamor for more youths to get involved in leadership?
Well, the best way to ask for more is to say thank you. The population of Nigerian youth and what they have so far is not even enough. So we have credible, intelligent, and well, you know, experienced youths in Nigeria. I can tell you that can drive the processes of governance in Nigeria, including the position of the president. So there is no position in Nigeria that we don't have a credible youth that can man those positions. But it's unfortunate that it's also challenging. Most times when young people are even given position, you don't see the performance.
But you said it's not about age.
That's what I'm saying.
Even older people are also given positions that we don't see the performance.
That's what we are saying. You know, we are measuring on the youths, on the young people.
We're making a comparison.
Yes, so I'm not saying that we have elders that are very much upright or who have performed well. We have elders who have performed well while in position. We have elders too who have failed woefully, who have nothing that we can, you know, reckon with at the exit of their tenure in offices. So that's why we talked about leadership is not about age thing, it's about the personal development and the capacity of the individual. So I would want to say that the young people deserve more space so that they can contribute with the energy and the vigor they have. When the current president, you know, after the inauguration, I know I addressed a press conference and then encouraged that he should, you know, carry the young people along in his government to avoid this issue of Jackpot syndrome, because Nigerian youths who will want to stay are people who will see that space are given to them to add and contribute to the development of their country. So if there is no space given to the young people, the issue of staying back may be defeated. So I think I made that press conference in Abuja, and when Mr. President came up, I saw that he gave spaces to young people in ministerial position, in most of those positions, but it's unfortunate that a few too failed, you know, in those their responsibility. But that does not mean that others have not performed. So the fact that one or two did not do well doesn't mean that, in fact, the time was also too small, you know, to measure performance. But of course, some was a result of what do you call it, corruption surrounding around them. So I want to encourage that more space should be given
When
to young
you say
people.
space, I want us to move to the next story, but I need to get this clarity. When you say space given to the young people, a lot of leadership positions people are usually elected into it. So when you talk about space being given, what is the limitation? I would like you to explain that better.
Okay, government is very big. For instance, when people talk about the presidency is not just Mr. President. The presidency have so many parastatals under it, and that are manned by DGs, by executive secretaries. You have several boards, so government is very big. Now, when you talk about even at the state level, you have boards, you have government parastatals, like the environmental sanitation, you have different agencies of government. So it's not about the elective positions alone. We just have some. Commissioners are not elected. Special advisors are not elected, so there are so many spaces that government can create for young people to serve. All
right, thank you so much. Let's move on to the next story now. The federal government is concerned about reported poor conditions at the Fokang Custodial Center in Calabar, with allegations of inhumane treatment, including poorly cooked food. Interior Minister Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo has ordered an urgent investigation, describing the situation as a serious breach of standards. He emphasized that lapses in food quality, sanitation and inmate welfare would not be tolerated, and promised that those responsible will be held accountable. The investigation's findings will be made public and disciplinary measures will follow. The state of our correctional centers in Nigeria, the state of our prison in Nigeria. If you call any Nigerian now to ask this question, if you go to the streets and you ask people on the road, what is your perception about the state of Nigeria's prison? I don't think you get a lot of positive reviews about Nigeria's prison. This particular prison being referenced here, and what exactly the minister said, let's get your thoughts on that.
Well, I like to say that the right word is what is talked about, the correctional center, no longer the prison. Now, those who are still with the prison mentality are the ones that will, maltreat the inmates who are in the correctional centers. So I like to think that there is need for reorientation of the correctional centers workers, those staffs who takes care of the inmates. So I also want to encourage that proper excuse me, proper checks and proper supervision around the correctional centers, especially the one in Calabar that is now a case study, should be put in place so that we don't always become reactive to issues, so that we always be on the proactive state of events. And I would like to say that the positive step by the minister is laudable, because why? Not every person in the correctional center has been convicted. Some are still awaiting trials. So it's not as if they have been convicted and you feel that they deserve to suffer, they deserve to they deserve an inhuman maltreatment. No, that's wrong. So most of them are just there because they are still awaiting trials. Some of them are innocently taken to the correctional center, even though they have to face the same measures from those who are already convicted. So I like to say that the management of the correctional centers should see those who are there as human beings, as their brothers, as their sisters, in case there is any reason for the inhuman treatment.
And those convicted and those not convicted put in the same place?
It's a correctional center. They are all in the same environment. So there is no much differences to the best of my understanding, even though I have not been there before.
But did you see people who have not been convicted, who have been sentenced?
Yes, I have visited, yes. So I'd like to say that it is out of place to say that those who are in the correctional center, the correctional centers ought to be like a rehabilitation home, a rehab home, where those who are convicted are made to come out and become better citizens. And in trying to make them better citizens, they must eat at least the little meal that can be provided for them. And secondly, they have a right to good health, facilities which are provided within that environment. They have a right to training, because the correctional centers now have some skill acquisitions. Some are even in school while they're in correctional center. The law gives them that privilege. So I want to say that the correctional center is no longer a prison, and they should not be treated like colonial prisoners.
When you look at what their laws states, right, if there are regulations that actually protect or that they should actually follow in these correctional centers, you find out that these things we're saying are not out of place. And I believe that there are checks on ground, there are measures for checks on ground. So every time we talk about stories, not just stories about correctional centers in general, the big question comes to mind: what happened to the bodies that are supposed to check to make sure that these things are happening right? If the Calabar Correctional Center is being talked about today, it's not because these things that he's mentioning just started happening now. Definitely it has been there for a long time. So this statement coming now is, although it's not out of place, but what happened all this while? What happened to all the checks we had on ground all this while? Who was supposed to do what that wasn't doing that? And another thing that we should also look at is the fact that these people have usually, time and time again, complained about funds. They have complained about monies being sent, not being enough to carry out what they're supposed to carry out, to check the welfare of these inmates. So sometimes, I remember once when the correctional center, they were complaining that they were giving 250,000 naira per meal or per day or something, and then there have been an increase in the prices of goods and services outside. So even then, when prices were lower, it was that situation. Now imagine this time when prices are higher. So these are also some of the things, some of the challenges that these people are facing, and what we're also going to look at.
Well, I think that's why the leadership is asking for investigation. The fact that there are poor treatment in the correctional center of Calabar does not mean that the fault is completely on the management, like you rightly have mentioned. So I want to think that when these investigations are done, they will see where there was lapses, either from the funding that government ought to have given to them, or maybe misappropriation, or maybe from delay in this funding. And I think that if funding is a major concern, there is need for periodic review because of the current and daily inflation, that we have in the market space of our country right now. So I think there's need for review of what the correctional centers get, so that they can easily meet up with the provision, because you can't give what you do not have. So if the budget they provided for them early this year is what they are still getting, there's no way the inmate will not complain. So I like to think that those who are in authority should understand that those who are managing the correctional centers needs to have a periodic reports, and when these reports are given, it should be swiftly responded to, so that the issues of what we're having in the Calabar correctional center will not repeat. And I also want to feel that it's probably that it is not something that have taken a long time. It could be something that just happened. So even if it happened yesterday, it's still timely.
If it could be something that just happened, it could also be something that has been
exactly there. So we cannot really ascertain, but I like to feel that there are reasons why this kind of lapses are there, and I want to say that the investigation should be swift, it should be expedited, so that the response that is needed to curb these negative occurrences will be taken care of on time.
All right, let's go to Taraba State now. Taraba State Deputy Governor Aminu Alkali has announced an expansion of the state's social safety net to support more vulnerable individuals. Speaking in Jalingo, the state capital, during the disbursement of 524 million naira to 10,409 beneficiaries, Alkali emphasized the state's commitment to alleviating the sufferings of vulnerable households through livelihood grants. Alkali expressed confidence that Taraba would soon see no vulnerable individuals, citing the successful distribution of grants to 2,680 youths and women in previous phases. The third phase, targeting 10,449 beneficiaries across all 16 local government areas and 2 special development areas, aims to boost small and medium enterprises and revitalize the local economy. He urged beneficiaries to use the funds wisely. State Commissioner for Cooperative and Poverty Alleviation, James Habu, added that beneficiaries received between 50,000 naira each, with previous phases distributing 101.9 million naira and 100 million naira respectively. Habu assured that the government remains dedicated to eradicating poverty and supporting the economy. Is this a move really to eradicate poverty?
Yes, anything you do to reduce unemployment and hardship is also a move to eradicate poverty. You know, sometimes those who are very theoretical, they will tell you it's not a good,
move. So you're more practical.
Yes. You know, in the north, like in Taraba, for instance, if you have 50,000 naira, there are businesses you can start and still survive. You know, so I think the governor have done well, and I commend that gesture. Now, you see, they gave it a very wonderful name, and they gave it as a grant, not as a loan. You know, so if you have 50,000 naira and you reside in
Taraba State, there's no way you wouldn't be able to start up a little small-scale business, and that can begin to aid you. One, it will create employment for you. 2, it can assist the welfare of your economy, of your family. So I think the governor has done well, and I'm glad that he's taking it phase by phase. Now that he's doing the little he can, is he complaining that there's no money for projects? Because this is what every reasonable government ought to do. Welfare of her citizens must be intentionally seen as a project. The only project that we have is not just by building industries. It's not just about, when you talk about industries that has to do with revenue generation, creation of employment, because this is the target of industry. So if you give individuals money to start up businesses, it's also an industry. So, but some people misunderstand when you talk about giving funds to citizens. It's like, how do you share money and all that? Nigerians are not dummy. You must not just say, until you create factory before you can say that you want to alleviate poverty.
Okay, when you talk about development, it's not just about building industries or building factories or building roads. There are various other things. In fact, road, first of all, is one of them because it will help aid the businesses. Now, we'll also talk about electricity. Now, imagine being given 50,000 naira to start up a business. I don't know what business they might be able to start, but they are different individuals, so they can think about what they can start. But then, these basic things that would aid the business not being on ground, paying so high for electricity, or, you know, other things that will aid the business, like I said, that are basic not being on ground. So how do you even balance it at the end of the day? You find out that that money at the end of the day might not serve its purpose.
Well, you are speaking from the context of your development and mindset.
The same way you're speaking from the context of your mindset.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, the point here is 50,000 naira, someone who resides in Taraba State can start up a business. For instance, you can start up a POS business. You can start up a fruit business. You can start up a shoemaker business. I can keep naming them and keep naming them on and on. But the challenge here is that because of our level of development and our level of social exposures, we feel that 50,000 naira is nothing in starting any business. But because I understand from the entrepreneurial point of view that if your mindset is about income generation, any amount you have, you can start up a business within that resources that you have. You cannot have 50,000 naira and you are thinking about starting up, a business that will require you to pay a huge amount of rent, that will require you to begin to pay bills. No, not at all. So, and there are some of them too that these grants are giving. Some of them are already doing something. So that resources can only complement what they are doing, strengthen their businesses. Not that all of them are idols. So I think 50,000 naira in state like Taraba is a good
Have you been to Taraba State?
Well, I've visited quite a number of states in the north, so I can understand the lifestyle over there.
What is the lifestyle you're making
The lifestyle over there is not very expensive like here. So, and their mindset too over the usage of resources is not as very big and demanding the way we have it here. So there are people with a very moderate kind of lifestyle.
Now, that explanation that I actually gave was because of what you stated, that some Nigerians feel that they must build, factories and industries.
Exactly.
And I had to explain to you
exactly.
where they are actually coming from and the ideologies that they have.
Exactly.
And most of the time, those ideologies have come to the table.
Yeah.
Is not only when we have projects like this in the north.
Exactly.
We also had the other time when the Senate President Akpabio actually was in Port Harcourt, when he mentioned that was during the protest, when he told them, oh, when they're protesting, you understand that Nigerians held on to that statement. But then he was also talking about 50,000 naira that will be distributed to 10,000 youths.
Yeah.
And I guess that was when we actually had a heated argument here concerning the 50,000 naira being distributed instead of being used. And aside that, why 50,000 naira? People saw it as a slap on the faces of the Niger Delta youths, telling us, Niger Delta youths, that you're going to give 50,000 naira. And that was when a guest here said he would use 50,000 naira for a pot of soup. But then, moving on, don't you see, I know you're on this other side, but don't you see in any way a point in this, on this other part where they say, why don't you provide the jobs instead? We're going to have more households being involved in that. One-time payment of 50,000 naira will go into other things. You give a man who is hungry 50,000 naira. The truth is, the first thing that he would do is to feed his family.
No, you see, you have a very vital point. People are entitled to their opinion. But I can tell you that the government of Taraba State, which is the case study right now, that is given this 50,000 grant to her citizens, is not in any way saying that we are no longer building factories. It's not in any way saying that our industries will shut down. But no matter the level of industries that the government builds, it can't employ everybody. That's the truth. So people must understand that there are people who have business ideas, but they lack resources to start. So if you have a business idea and the government is aiding you or supporting you with the little you have, it's not a bad thing. So I want to say that even here, if you have 50,000 naira, you can start up a groundnut business. You can start up a fruit business. Even the POS I talked about in the north. You can start up a fish business. If you go to the markets that we go to buy food items, you agree with me that most of the traders there, their products are not more than 30, 50,000. But at least they are earning a living out of it. So the mindset of we must have millions, hundreds of thousands, because before we can start anything, is something that most of us are discouraging.
But you're one of the advocates for millions being distributed to Nigeria.
Of course. Why I talk about millions for the southern Nigeria, and because I talked about it because I feel that what government is doing in terms of investment in infrastructures and thereabout is not really meeting the immediate needs of the people.
So you don't think in the north they need that kind of money?
I am only applauding the little the government.
Oh, you said you talked about millions for the southern part of Nigeria.
No, yes, and I said like 500 for the northern state. Now, if the governor has started with something, it should be commended. Now, it means that as they review their resources, he can improve. I didn't say that should be the benchmark. I didn't say it's the best, but I said with the little he has given, someone who wants to be, productive in his or her life can start up something. You know, if we're not here to share our testimonies and the stories of what we have done while trying to grow up. So I think there are several things that someone can do. It's a mindset thing. By the time you feel that you are too big to do a POS business, I'm too big to sell granite, I'm too big to sell ice cream, I'm too big to sell water.
We want to send all Nigerian youths into selling granites and menial jobs.
No. It's not everybody. There are so many people who are also engaged. We are talking about those who have nothing to do.
What about investing more into their intellectual capacity? Don't you think that's going to yield more than these things you're mentioning?
Okay, let me come again. If you talk about intellectual, I do not understand the area you are coming.
Okay,
but
now,
I would like to say
that
you know that we have thousands of graduates who have no job right now.
Exactly.
So it's not about the intellectual, what do you call it, investment. Nigerians have already been, heavily invested on intellectual.
Okay, let me break it down so that you get where I'm coming from. When you talk about intellectual capacity, you're looking at, if you take a young man and you empower him, right? It's more than just giving him 50,000 naira to go and do a business or to go and start a menial, job or something. There is more that individual can give back. Hold on. There is more that individual can give back to the society. Look at what technology is doing these days. Look at some of these big companies. Look at Facebook. That is one man's ideology. And there are thousands of Nigerians who have these amazing ideas that if they're being empowered at the moment, they can give back to the society a whole lot. So when we talk about empowering youth, empowering Nigerians, it's more than giving them 50,000. The world has gone beyond what we're talking about. The world has gone beyond just sitting down somewhere with an umbrella and trying to sell sweets.
Well, I want to also bring back to history and records that the instances you gave are very wonderful, but Big Gate was not funded by the government of United States.
Does that mean we should not fund our own people?
Mark, everybody who is into technological development, especially the Facebook, the Zoom, WhatsApp, different platform that is revenue generating to those individuals that have come up with those innovative. We are not funded by government.
Now imagine such platforms being funded by government or being partnered with government. Imagine the funds and the revenue that will come into the economy.
No, you see, when you must start something. Nobody will.
You think Nigerians have not started?
You see, when you start, one thing I do not want to do all the time is to do a blame game. Because I know entrepreneurs who have succeeded outside government funding.
Of course.
Now, what you need for you to strive and succeed in any of your endeavor, number one is your vision, is your commitment. Now, when you have a vision, before you talk about partnership may not just be with government. There are individuals who have the resources that are looking for ways of investing. We have organizations that you can partner with. So for me, government is always the last because I do not want to blame my father for my challenges. So
nobody's blaming the government. But I'm saying, imagine the government invests in such empowerment. Imagine what it will bring in or bring back for the economy.
You see, I do also understand that there are times that if you want to talk about IT or ICT, I know that there are times that different governments at different levels have as well also organized training for her citizens.
Of course.
And the question is those whom they have trained, because you are talking about intellectual empowerment right now. What's the result out of it? So what we are looking at is the many Nigerians, what they need right now is cash. Because they have the ideas, they have the business ideas.
So when they need cash, is 50,000 naira. That's the cash Nigerians need.
It is measured now. The people, I have told you here that the level of empowerment differs. There are different programs to access grants, access loan from government. Like Rivers State government, they have an agency responsible for business scale empowerment, where you write your, visibilities for this, and then they look at your business proposals and plan, and then see how they can fund you, see the business arrangement, and they fund you. So that one is beyond 50, 100,000 naira. So, but in this case where they're looking at immediate, if you feel that your business idea is bigger than 50,000 naira, you have sent yourself when it is time. So those who actually need it, those who in Rumukuta market, in Ozoba market, in Rumokuro market, Maitre market, 50,000 naira would boost their business. I'm talking about those here. Those who intend to also do those kind of petty businesses, at least it's better than none.
When you look at how much the government gets to spend, when you put all these people together that were given 50,000 naira, and then you imagine that that money was invested in another way. I'm telling you how some Nigerians see this, right? I'm not telling you my stand.
I know you're not saying.
I don't have a stand here, but I'm telling you the other side of the picture, since you're already coming from this side of the picture. Now, this is how some people see it. When look at the amounts that was mentioned, that was used. 10,000 people were given this, thousands of people. Put it all together and imagine that money is invested properly. That would get to impact the lives of those people in a longer term, other than just that once, distribution of 50,000 naira.
What most of us do not understand as Nigerians is that this grant that are given, social aid is done globally. In America, you have social aid. In fact, that is where most of these things are borrowed. So it's not as if it's a primitive idea. These are government intentional interventions to aid low-skilled entrepreneurs, those who feel that they need to start up something. So it's not as if it's a primitive idea. It's done globally. So I want to feel that government giving this kind of grant has no any way stopped the creation of industries. It must not be that little one, of course, even if they create an industry right now, how many will it employ? So my own is that I'm advocating for the uneducated Nigerians, those who cannot have those opportunities, because even if those industries we are talking about, employment is also politicized. So, but I'm always saying that these little resources that should be given to those, the poorest of the poor, in our country should not be condemned because you are educated, because you are a civil engineer, because you have a electrical engineer. You are looking for avenues government must invest so that you can be engaged. You are not also considering the man who couldn't go to school.
Then pick him up and send him to school.
So what we are saying is, no, with time they will also. Not everybody mustn't go to school. If you are an entrepreneur, you mustn't go to the university.
Exactly.
So the point we are trying to say is that it's an intentional intervention that government wants to do so that the average poorest of the poor in Nigeria that wants to start up a mini business, can start. And I want to say that 50,000 naira is not useless, but it can be improved upon. Government can add more. So that others who falls in other categories can also start up something according to their business idea. But to say it's not meaningful, no, it is meaningful. It is useful. I commend the governor of Taraba State, and I want you to do more. Another state will also borrow leave. And those who have also received these resources, I'd like you to understand that it's not money that is meant for food. It's not money meant for, you can starve yourself for a moment for a better future. So it's not a question of, I want to cook I don't know the person that said 50,000 naira pot of soup. It must be somebody who is gainfully employed or whose business has grown. But it's not somebody who is trying to make a future and they give you 50,000 naira and your brain tells you that you need to go and buy the biggest fish in the market, because you want to cook a big soup.
All right, Ambassador, thank you so much for your thoughts on that story. Let's take some time off now. We're going on a short break, and when we return, the conversation will continue on other stories. Please stay with us. And we are back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's move straight to the next story. It's still, I still have Ambassador Ike with me in the studio. The next story we're looking at is this one coming from StarTimes, that StarTimes has filed a lawsuit against Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the House Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, accusing them of unlawfully fixing their own salaries and allowances and not disclosing details about these payments. StarTimes seeks orders to end the practice of setting remuneration and running costs, compel disclosure of running cost details, and stop payments into lawmakers' personal accounts. They argue that these actions violate constitutional and legal provisions, including the UN Convention Against Corruption. SERAP also demands that allegations of misuse be investigated by anti-corruption agencies and highlights that such practices undermine public trust and violate judiciary duties. This is not the first time we are having a story pointing at the fact that lawmakers get to fix their own salaries and talks about that. Now, it's coming to the public domain and Nigerians are asking questions.
Well, I think the answers that Nigerians are asking, including me, can only now be best answered by the courts of competent jurisdiction that SERAP has gone to. So I want to say that we await the interpretation of the law, we await the verdict of the courts, and then see who is right and who is not right. So I want to appeal to all Nigerians for us to be patient while we allow the judiciary to do the needful. All
right, let's look at the next story now. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Ekperikpe Ekpo, has urged oil companies in the Niger Delta to expedite the process, that's the establishment of the Host Community Development Fund. Speaking during a visit to OML 13, the operational base of NNPC Exploration and Production Limited and Natural Oil Field Services Limited in Akwa Ibom State, Ekpo emphasized that the HCDT aligns with the Petroleum Industry Act. He praised the NEPL and NOSL for their strong community relations and peaceful operations and encourage extending power supply from the flow station to local communities to maximize the company's positive impact. ECPO assured support from the federal government to help the community or the company meet its production targets. NEPL and NOSL's management highlighted their facilities capacity of 60,000 barrels of oil and 90 million standard cubic feet of gas per day, aiming to reach full production by year-end. And they emphasized their commitment to community development through various projects, including medical outreach, scholarships, infrastructure, and more. The minister's visit allowed for a first-hand assessment of the OML 13 facilities. This story is on the economy and talking about the petroleum minister urging quick HCDT implementation. You know, I think we had this conversation, was it yesterday, where we talked about the implementation of the host community funding.
Yes, I think the Honorable Minister has done well in not just getting interested with the company, but also intentionally engaging the oil host communities and assuring them of government support in ensuring that oil companies who reside within their localities, you know, create positive impact on them, and also urging the particular community that they should give them light, which I think is part of what we have been saying here, that where a host community cannot afford social amenities, and then in the name of land use decree or whatsoever. So I want to believe that oil companies, I talked about the oil politics, right? How they divide communities because they want to have a free day in what they are doing. So I believe that the Honorable Minister having an intentional plan for oil host communities will ensure that the collaboration continue and is strengthened so that oil companies will not continually maltreat the host communities, and also pray that the PIA bills and the resources that is allocated for the host communities should be speedily released and judiciously managed too by those who are implementers of these resources. The traditional rulers, community heads, stakeholders who have the responsibility of ensuring that these things are supervised to benefit their communities should eschew greed and selfishness so that we don't have a further crisis of communal rivals, and so that the insecurity that we're having already, let's begin to deal with those ones, not creating avenues for more insecurity because of, so as a result of greedy desires. So I think it's a good innovation and a good move.
Now I was going to ask you, when you talked about the oil community, the oil companies, politics and all of that, I was going to ask you if that is the only place that the politics is being played. Is it just coming from the oil companies? When we talk about oil politics in these host communities?
Oil politics is both. We have political leaders too who get involved. In most cases, you will see local government chairman has interest in what the oil company is doing in their localities. Of course, it's not out of place. The governor having interest in what the oil companies are doing, the assembly members, the senators, the reps, the commissioners, political elites, you know, stakeholders. So the oil politics is not just between traditional rulers. So both politicians also get involved. So that's why we are advocating and requesting that whosoever is stakeholder in the oil business, in the localities where we reside or where you govern, let us ensure that greed is eschewed.
Let's look at how much these host communities are really being taken care of, or how much their welfare is being looked into.
Well, it is it's not a very one-way standard. Different communities have their testimonies. Others have good one, others have negative.
Have you heard any community that has a good testimony as a host community?
There are communities where oil companies have built schools for them. There are host communities where oil companies have built pipe-borne waters for them. There are some that the host community, that company has electrified their place.
And
some
even
they
employed their
youth, and they are fueling their diesel. There are host communities that companies have given scholarship.
Yes.
You know, so there are host communities that companies, you know, in their localities have done quite a lot. There are some communities too that have seen nothing. You know, so that's why I said, for instance, for the minister to say the company should give lights to the community, it means they have no light. You know, so that's why I said it varies. So that's why we are requesting and pleading that companies that have MOU with their communities should intentionally supervise the implementation of this MOUs.
Pleading, is it not the first time we're pleading that this should actually be done? This is something that have been pleads that have been made for a long time. This is things that have been written, you know, advocacies that have been, it's way beyond just saying we're pleading that they should get it. There's more that should be done.
You see, if I have the executive power,
no, not about you now.
That's what we are saying. We are pleading.
We're not talking about you having the executive power now. We're talking about recommendations being made. Now,
that's what we are saying. Plead is a recommendation. So when you are recommending, you are pleading, you are requesting. You know, it's just a matter of nomenclature.
No. So this is it now. You need to understand. It's not about just saying we plead that the host community should keep to their memorandum of understanding.
No, not the host community.
The oil companies should keep to their MOUs with the host communities. I'm telling you that this situation now has gone beyond anybody sitting down and pleading with host or companies to keep their MOUs. That's gone beyond that. This is a time when actions should be taken. It has been too many years of these host communities, especially those ones who have not felt the impact of their oil that's going out, the impact of the funds that are being generated from this oil. Now, this is more than that. They have gone through so much, and if we have them in the studio, they can burn down the place just explaining what they are going through. So I'm trying to explain to you that it has gone beyond just that. We need to start making recommendations.
Yes, you know, why you see me talk about plead, the plead, like I said, is also a recommendation and a request. There is no further much. We are talking about the Honorable Minister, right? Visiting the communities and the oil company, isn't it? Those are actions that government is taking. Those are actions. You may not know whether...
You think those actions are enough?
You see, any action that is put in place may not happen overnight. So even if
the PIA has been an act for 3 years now.
See, the PIA that we are talking about, not that there has never been a release of that fund before. but they are expecting more release of funds.
No, they're saying the implementation. That means there have been a problem with implementing it at all in the first place.
You know, you see, people speak from what they understand.
What do you understand?
Now, what I'm trying to say, we are not saying that there are no bureaucracies. It's just like budgets. You know, I've told you here, I've mentioned here before, rather, that in this host communities arrangement, that has to do with the PIA funding, that this money is not just meant to be shared by communities, that most of these resources are tied to projects. And when these projects are put together by the relevant authority, they now expect these resources to be released, and then the implementation will begin. And I know that the interaction I have with most of these people who are involved with host communities management of these PIA resources is that they have put up this, you know, budget from different communities recommended. They are waiting for resources for implementation. That's why I plead that government should release funding, and then those who are implementing, the stakeholders should avoid greed. You know, I'm speaking from literal understanding and information I have. You know, so we are not saying that I cannot sit here. Of course, you have seen where host communities go on protests. Like you said, it's gone beyond their plea, right? But the question is, after the protest, what's the result? You know, so again, as somebody who have seen the agitations of the host communities, Niger Delta youths especially, our militancy struggle started as a result of reaction towards the poor neglect and the poor attention of oil companies and the government on host communities, or the Niger Delta communities and area. And of course, the effect of that militancy have never been recovered. We lost a lot of souls. We lost a whole lot of the Niger Delta resources, both human and infrastructure. So that's why someone like me is on the lane of pleading, right, and requesting, because we have used, you know, violence. We have used enough kind of what do you call it, force, to ensure that we got the result, but we didn't still got much. So that's still telling you that dialogue is still the best approach for every result and agitation that we are looking for. So we'll keep on pleading, we'll keep on requesting, we'll keep on recommending any of these nomenclature that we want to use. You know, pleading is recommendation, it is request, anyone that we want to accept. But I'm saying that host communities, oil company, try and be responsive to your MOU with the communities. The federal government, the PIA resources, and those who are holding it, try and release it on time. Oil company, try and pay in. Because if the oil company do not pay in their own quota, there will be no resources to fund that PIA too, apart from the one that federal government is putting in. You know, it's like a basket funding. So even if they are requesting and every of these things, the blueprint has been put together, if the funds are not there, it cannot still be implemented. So all the stakeholders responsible, let us live up to our responsibilities.
All right, thank you so much. Let's look at our next story now. This is coming from the West African Students' Union. They have urged President Bola Tinubu to take decisive action against those sabotaging the Dangote refinery, which aims to refine petroleum locally and reduce reliance on imports. WASU warns that continued sabotage could lead to protests and named those involved. They emphasized the refinery's potential to create jobs, reduce fuel prices, and boost the economy. WASU called on the president to ensure international oil companies, IOCs, supply crude oil to the refinery as mandated by the Petroleum Industry Act. They commended Aliko Dangote for his patriotism in building the refinery. Okay, Ambassador, how do you see this story?
Well, it's a good one. Federal government is not moved by protest threats. And I believe that what WASU have done is commendable, it is nice, but the kind of government we have are not moved by protest threats. So I feel that WASU and every one of us should further our advocacy in writing, in visiting relevant authorities of that has to relate with the ills and the delay in the Dangote refinery from having what it takes to begin. So I think I commend them, and I want to say that the federal government is not worried or moved over protest threats, the kind of government that we have, including at the state levels. So I would like to say that for us to get more results, let us increase our advocacies, to advocacy visits, to further writing to Mr. President, to Minister for Petroleum, to our senators, our stakeholders across, as much as we can engage them positively. And I believe if we all continue in the advocacy while our refineries needs to function, one day I believe the good Lord will bring it to pass.
All right, you talked about we now. Even when you said ASU and every one of us, you always involved yourself in all of this. What is your stand on the whole drama that has been playing out between the Dangote refinery and, let's say, the federal government as a whole?
Well, for me, Dangote has her own view on why should there be delay. And I've also listened to most of these plenaries, or what do you call it, interactions, either from the National Assembly, you know, what could be the challenge, why the refineries are not working, why is Dangote not having a product. Some have said is the process, you know, that needs to be met, that they are reviewing, you know, processes. This is the first time, you know, this kind of a project is being embarked upon in our country. So there is need for policy review, there's need for price review, and they said they are working on it. So I like to say that every action that we have been made to understand that needs to be met, you know, should be speedized, so that our beloved brother investment will not be frustrated. So I believe that he's been patient, and I believe that patience is a good hallmark, and I believe that the federal government and those relevant
now this delay and this patience you're talking about, how do you see it affecting the economy currently?
Well, it's better late than never, and for those who are managing our economy, they know the best. But when we sit outside here, we may not really understand the implications of hurrying processes and doing things the way we feel that it should happen right now. If it is in the church, it must happen right now. No. So I want to believe that the relevant agencies of government should speedize their process.
Why do you want them to speedize the process?
Why, I mean, so that the delay will not continue.
What do you think is wrong with the delay?
You know, government is not like one-man business. It's a bureaucratic process where memos have to go from one table to another, where boards have to sit and decide on issues. So it's different from a key group of companies.
No, that's an excuse for the delay. You said so the delay will not continue. And I'm asking you why you made that statement. Is there a problem you think there is with the delay?
No, that's what I'm saying now. That because of the bureaucratic nature in governance, sometimes it can lead to delay. So that's why I'm encouraging the stakeholders in
what
this process.
What is wrong with having the delay? That's the question. I'm trying to see
what is wrong is having the delay.
Yes. How do you think that would impact anything? Probably
the agencies of government responsible want to get it right. So I think it could be part of the delay. No matter how we want the process happen right now, if the decision has to be taken, it must be conventionally looked upon.
What do you think will be at stake if the delay continues?
Well, we are in an economy that the government is trying to revive. So many things are going negatively slowly. Some are going positively slowly. But we are trusting that every of the delay in government policies and actions will make Nigeria to come out to become a better, robust
Do you
economy.
think this delay is going to go in that light?
Well, I want to believe that the managers of this industry are not against our brother Dangote and his investment.
That's what you say.
So I believe that Dangote, as a businessman, also understands the processes
having made known to him.
So if he understands, why do you think he's clamoring?
No. For over a recent time now, he has not clamored again. It was initial when this process of starting, and later there was
initially he also understood it. So why do you think he had that clamor?
No, he did not understood initially. I believe that these communications were not done. Sometimes there could be a decision, and when you look at it overallly, that it will not be to the best interest of our economy and Nigeria, there's nothing wrong to review it. So I want to believe that understanding that the way government circle operates or works is not the way a one-man business functions. So if issues are looked upon, decision can be taken right now, and it could be reviewed the next moment. So we talked about the prison. They are giving them a particular amount of money, and inflation has come up. So they need more funding. So there should be a review. So if there is a need for review, that has also delayed the process of Dangote refinery getting what it needs to get to start up, I think if it is for the overall interest of Nigeria and our economy, I want to plead with our beloved brother and the management Dangote to a little bit exercise patience and also call on the relevant agencies to speedize their actions.
All right, thank you so much, Ambassador Ikea. We appreciate your thoughts on the show today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And big thanks to you for being a part of the conversation. We appreciate you. Thank you once again. We hope to do this with you tomorrow. Stay with us as we'll be back same time, same station. Remember to stay connected with us on all of our ATN socials on Facebook and YouTube, at Atlantic Television Network on Instagram and TikTok, at Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X at Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress, and always remember that I am Enidoye Jackson. Stay with us as Open Conversation is coming up next.